Hey, happy Saturday. Hello, everybody. Today is video number 12. Can you all believe it? 12 quilt blocks are ready. Today we're going to be doing the Mosaic Star block. It's going to be a 12-inch quilt block, and I have up on the screen all of the pieces that you need for this block. If you want to take a minute, if you didn't catch them yesterday, there are the pieces. Good morning. Hello. So great to see you. Mosaic Star. Let me give you a preview of what that's going to look like. Hello, everybody. Hello. Let me give you a preview of what this looks like as a quilt. That's pretty fantastic, right? Yes. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Saturday. Well, I say morning. It is 12:51 where we are here in Virginia. And Saturdays are my cleaning days, and so I've been busy straightening up the house and vacuuming, cleaning bird cages, all the fun stuff. And yes, Harlan has gone to Lowe's for something that he needs out in the yard, and so we're going to go live while he's gone. And we're going to make this quilt block together. Today, we're going to be making flying geese. Have you ever done that before? Many of you have. And many of you have not. That's how we're going to put together this block. We're making flying geese units. Once we're done with those, it's going to go together really simple. I know this block might look a little complicated, but if we break it down into 4 blocks, it comes together in the end as a 4-patch. Hello, everybody, and if you stay tuned to the end, I'm going to show you tomorrow's block. I think you're going to love it. Tomorrow's block. Tomorrow's block, I have 4 questions lined up for today, and just letting y'all know, I'm going to try to slow down. Slow down, Lisa. I'm going to try to slow down and take this block nice and slow with you and explain it step by step along the way. So we might be here for about an hour. And then once you make this block, I think you'll have no problem whipping these out much quicker. But I'm going to really take my time and break this down for you. Hello, everybody. Oh, I love spending my day with you. Yes, so let me show you. I'm going to be using the same colorway of fabrics today. Blue, brown, red, and white. I've got my pieces all cut and ready to go. And I did make a sample block of this yesterday afternoon using the same fabrics. And so this is what we're making. Isn't that pretty? Yes, I like this block. I like this block a lot. So this is what we're making today. Let me wake up my iron and get that warming up. I'm going to give y'all a minute to get in, get settled. If you're sewing along with me, go ahead and set your sewing machine to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Get that done. Yes, the Mosaic Star. I got little string bits all over the place this morning. Sandra, I think you would have an easier time if you do start your fabrics when cutting these blocks. I think you'll have a little bit of an easier time not stretching them out and getting them all wonky. I did not starch my fabrics in this white fabric. Probably could stand to use some starch, but I'm ready to go, so we're going to go with it. But yes, if you start your fabrics, you'll have a little bit of an easier time before you cut these pieces, okay? Janet, yeah, it looks complicated, but I'm going to break it down really simple for you step by step. We're going to try to make it not complicated. Good morning, Diane 57. Just letting you know, Miss Diane, thank you so much for moderating. If y'all have a question, it would be really easy for me to scroll through. If you put your questions in all caps, that makes it easier for me to see because we're going to start getting comments go through faster than what I can keep up with. And today, I really want to focus on these pieces so that I don't swap them around and sew something together in the wrong way. So I'll be coming back later tonight to read the conversation. I have 4 questions lined up, and we're going to go ahead and get started because it's going to take us a minute to make this quilt block, right? It's going to take us a minute. So if you're just watching along and you're going to make this block later, or you're watching on the replay, if you're watching on the replay, feel free to answer down in the comment section. We're going to start with our first question as I start to cut my pieces. If we hosted a karaoke live karaoke show this evening, what would be the one song that you would sing during our karaoke? If we did a karaoke night, what's the one song that comes to mind immediately that you would get up and sing in front of everybody? That's question number 1. All right, so to get this block started, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set aside the blue and the brown block, the larger 2 blocks. Let's go ahead and put those off to the side for a minute. We're going to start with the red. You should have 2 of these, 2 reds. And then you should have, let's see, I think there were 6 white. And these are both cut at 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. Those are the pieces we're going to start with first. We're going to take these 2 blocks and we're going to cut them one time. Laura, those are called leaders and enders, and they help you, it helps to keep your thread in the needle and to prevent the thread from nesting and creating a big mess when you first start sewing. It stops all of that silliness. It also preserves thread because usually if you take your block away from the sewing machine and you pull it out and then use your cutter, you're pulling good amounts of thread away, right? So we're preserving thread and we're preventing the little nest that can sometimes happen with different machines. All right, so let's go ahead and start cutting. We're going to take both of these. Again, these are your 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. I have my 2 red ones here. I'm going to cut one time on the diagonal. I'm going to stand up because that's safer for me. We're just going to cut those right in half. Just like that. So now we should have 4 red triangles. And then I'm going to bring over my 6 white squares. There's 2. There's 4. And there's 6. I'm going to cut all 6 at the same time. So now we should have 12 little white triangles. That's the first thing we're going to do. So we have 12 white triangles and 4 red ones. We're going to set those off to the side and we're going to bring in our 2 bigger blocks. These blocks should measure 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. I'm just going to lay them one on top of the other and save a little time in cutting. The bigger block, we're going to make 2 cuts. We're going to cut the first corner to corner. And then we're going to turn it in the opposite direction and line that back up. And we're going to make one more cut in the opposite direction from corner to corner. This will give us 4 blue triangles and 4 brown triangles. And that is all of our cutting. Oh no, it didn't cut all the way through. Snip. Snip. Let's go ahead and separate those colors. It's so great to see y'all today. I hope your Saturday's been fantastic. I went to the Food Lions this morning to get some trash bags, and it's the first time I drove my car in almost 4 weeks. I couldn't believe it. I had to remember how to follow the speed limit. Yes, so if you could sing karaoke, if we hosted karaoke night, what's the song that you would sing? Good morning, everybody. Oh, I can't wait to go through and read your answers. So I'm going to give you just a second to catch up. This is where we are. We've made all the cuts that we're going to make. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to lay this block out, okay? Ooh, I'm thirsty after cleaning house all morning. All right, to make this block layout simple, let's go ahead and lay out our pieces, okay? I have all my pieces here. We're going to start by making 4 units. We're going to start with our brown triangle. We're going to take 2 white triangles. The triangle has 2 shorter sides and a longer side. We're going to put that longer side right to our brown triangle, just like this. That's going to make our first flying geese, right? Then we're going to repeat that, except for this time, we're going to use a brown triangle. We're going to use only 1 white triangle this time. And we're going to bring in one of the reds. Just like that. So this will make 1 block. We're going to do that 3 times, okay? So this time, we're going to lay our brown triangle just like this. We're going to bring in our 2 white triangles. We're going to bring in a blue one. 1 white triangle. And 1 red triangle. It's coming together. Hazel, thank you so much. Aw, thank you so much, Hazel. You're so sweet. Here's our brown one. This time it's going to point up towards the block above it. 2 white triangles. A blue one. 1 more white. And 1 more red. And we're coming along, we're getting it laid out. And then we have our last one. This time the brown triangle will go in this direction. We've got the blue one. We've got 1 more red. And then we're filling in the empty spaces with the white. Now I'm going to give y'all a minute because I know some of you are sewing together with me live. I'm going to give you a minute to get your block pieces laid out. This is where we are. Yes, Connie, thank you so much. I try to make it as easy as possible. There are several different ways you could make this block. You could make this a half square triangle and then assemble half square triangles, right? We haven't done flying geese yet, so I wanted to cover that in one of these videos. So yes, I'm glad that's easy for you. This is the easiest way for me to make this block, although I think you could tackle it a couple of different ways. All right, while we're waiting for everyone to catch up and lay out their pieces, question number 2. Would you rather ride a bike to get to where you're going, ride a horse to get to where you're going, or ride in a car? Let's say you were going to the store and you had 3 options. Would you ride a bike? Would you ride a horse? Or would you just ride in the car? That's question number 2. Now, as we begin sewing these pieces together, I think it's going to make it really easy if you grab yourself a marker or a pencil, water-soluble marker, heat erasing pencil, one of those things to mark your seams. Okay, so I'm going to mark our seams as we go along because it's going to be really easy to mix up the seams once you move them from your space over to the sewing machine. So I'm going to use a pen to do that. And we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Now, each one of these 4 units consists of 2 flying geese units, right? We're going to start with the brown flying geese units first. Let's go ahead and let's take the first triangle and we're just going to flip it pretty side down, just like that. We're going to repeat that for each one of our 4 brown units. We're just flipping over one triangle, just like that. This is when I go ahead and make a mark right in that seam because I don't want to accidentally get confused when we're moving these pieces over and it gets sewn in the wrong direction. We're going to be sewing at this seam right here. So I've made a little mark so I don't get confused when I move everything over. While y'all are working on question number 2, I'm going to go ahead and start sewing these, okay? So I'm going to move over to the sewing machine. One thing I want you to notice if you're sewing along with me is that your triangle is going to be you're going to have a little bit of a point. If you match up your pieces here and here, you're going to have a little tip right there that's sticking over, and that's okay. All right, your extra tip should be right when you start sewing, and your fabric on this edge should be flush and straight. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sew these seams with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to chain piece mine. So I'm just going to bring each one of these units over and we'll get all 4 of them done. So there we are. This bottom seam should be flush. Your extra little tip will be right when you start sewing. So there's 2. There's our 3rd one, and let's bring over this last one. And that was our fourth one. I'm going to take that off of the sewing machine. Bye, Tookie Lukes. I love you. Have a good day, okay? Be careful going to your dad's. Text me later and just say hi. Love you. All right, so here's our first seam that we did together. I'm going to go ahead and separate these. We're going to give this a press before we add our second triangle, okay? And I know my usual pressing is I would be pressing to the dark side, but for these I am going to be pressing this open towards the lighter side, and that's just easier for me, okay? I'm going to give that a press. Let me warm up my iron for a minute. I think if I had a horse, I would rather ride a horse. That's just me. So we've got the first one done. The second seam pressed. The third. And the fourth. So this is where we are. We have our first triangle on. That's coming together fantastically. So at this point, your first seam is pressed. We're going to go ahead and turn over the second triangle onto our brown triangle. You can go ahead and mark that one too if you need to. At this point, it should be a little bit easier to know which seam to sew, but I just went ahead and marked it. And we're going to sew these 4 on. And guess what? That's the most difficult part of this whole block. So now we're going to just sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure that these 2 raw edges are nice and flush. Your extra little tip should be towards the center of the brown triangle, okay? So there's our first one. Our second. Third. And fourth. So here's our units. I'm going to just separate those. And I'm going to give them a quick press, and then I'm going to give you a second to catch up in case you're sewing along with me, okay? So just like that, we've made 4 flying geese units. There's our first one with the brown triangles. That's as complicated as it gets, y'all. We're repeating the same process with our blue flying geese. Now I'm going to give y'all a minute just to catch up in case you're sewing together with me live. But there we are, 4 flying geese units all done. So, for question number 3, what is your biggest fear? What is it that you're the most scared of, like your biggest fear? What would that be? The older I get, it's funny, I have a fear of heights. And the older I get, the worse it gets. And I don't know why. But yeah, I even have dreams about being up high and falling. I have a fear of heights. So just like that, we have our first 4 flying geese units made. To start with the blue ones, I'm going to start with this white triangle and flip it down onto the blue one. I'm going to go ahead and mark that seam so I don't get confused at the sewing machine. And we're going to go ahead and take the blue ones and sew our first seam for those flying geese units. Again, and make sure that this 2 raw edges are lined up. The extra little tip should be right when you start sewing. There's our first one. There's our second one. Here comes our third. And our fourth. Now we can cut apart these units and I'm going to give those a press. Yes, I don't know why. The older I get, the more afraid of heights that I get. I don't know why that is. I used to be able to ride roller coasters and all kinds of fun stuff. I don't want to do that anymore. All right, we're coming right along, y'all, coming right along. At this point, we should look just like this, and we only have to attach our red triangles to the bigger blue one. So again, we're flipping that red triangle right down onto the blue one. The extra tip of your triangle should be right where this other little tip is. And this seam right here, or these two raw edges, should be nice and flush, just like that. We're going to have two little rabbit ears. That's what I like to call them, rabbit ears. Stick out right at that seam there. So now I'm just going to mark this seam just like that. And I'm going to bring these over and chain piece them as well. I'll tell you, I've had the best time in the evenings going through and reading all the answers to the questions. It's been so much fun. So there's our second one. We're pulling over the third one. And the fourth. I'm going to separate these and give the red triangle a press. Wanda, I have not written any books about quilting. Nope. I've written patterns. I have some patterns available in my Etsy shop. A little shameless plug there, but no books. I have not written any books yet. What type of pen am I using? You can use a pencil, Connie. You can certainly use a pencil, or if you have a water-soluble marker or a heat erasing pen, you can use any of those things. I'm using a marker that you probably should not be using, but it shows up in the video. Yeah, you want something that's not going to mess up your fabric. A pencil would work great. Okay, y'all, that's our second set of 4 flying geese. Just like that, the hardest part is over. And look, I didn't mix up any of my seams. Yay, we're going straight. So guess what? It's all easy from here. We're gonna take the blue triangle and we're gonna flip it right onto the brown one. And we're going to sew the seam, the longest seam, right there on that blue triangle. Just like that. We're going to sew that edge to edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Question number 4. This is our last question for the day. Do you really like surprises, or do you really dislike being surprised? If someone threw you a surprise party, would you be really happy about it, or would you not enjoy it at all? I've had so much fun looking at everybody's blocks over on the Creative Crew group. Y'all are fast. Y'all are fast. It's been so much fun. All right, we've got our third set going through. I will, Diane. I'll put a link once this video is posted and we're not live, then I can put a link to my Etsy shop in the description box. I should be pretty easy to find though in Etsy. If you go to Etsy and you're on the home page, if you type in the search box Lisa Capen Quilts, my shop should come right up. We're sewing our fourth seam. This is where we are. Now y'all, you feel free to cut off these little, I call them rabbit ears when they're doubled up like that. I don't know if that's the real name or not. Feel free to trim those off if you want to. I just leave them on there, but yes, you can trim those up nice and pretty if you want to. I'm going to separate these units and I'm going to give these a press. And the way that I'm going to press them, we have a brown triangle going towards the blue one. On the back, you can press that open, but I like to just press this seam nice and flat. This point will go towards the blue. Look at there, I even got my point nice and pretty. Look at that. And then I spoke too soon. I lost my point on this one a little tiny bit. That's all right. See, nice and pretty point. And I lost my point. And guess what, y'all? Just like this, we now have 4 units. We now have a 4 patch. We now have a 4 patch, just like that. I'm going to give you just a minute to catch up if you're sewing with me live. Connie, I do not have a wool pressing mat. However, I've seen them at the quilt show and I almost bought one this year, but I had a budget. I was shopping on a budget and I really wanted some inks to dye some fabric with. So those won over the wool pressing mat. I have a homemade pressing board that I use and really that works fine for me. So I don't know that I will get a wool pressing mat, because I usually find something else I want to spend my money on. That's just me being honest. I've heard they work really great though. Most of the people that I hear from love their wool pressing mat. Ooh, I'm so thirsty today. So here we are, y'all. A 4 patch. To finish up this quilt block, just like you would any other 4 patch, I'm going to lay the right block onto the left one. And we're going to sew this seam and sew at that seam. You can put some pins in there if that helps you keep nice and straight. There's our first one. Right in this seam with the little rabbit ears, it's a little bit thicker, so go slow over that part. So here are our 2 pieces for our 4 patch. I'm going to give those a press. And I like to nest this seam right there. So there we are. It's coming together really well, right? Guess what? We only have one more seam left to do. Wanda, did you do a video on fabric ink pressing as that quilt in the back? I saw a video making that. Was that you? Yes. The quilt you see draped over the frame, that was me. We screen printed the design on each one of those blocks. That was so much fun. Screen printing, making your own custom fabric panels and making a quilt from it. I am hand sewing the binding on that quilt. I'm about a little over halfway done. It's a slow project. The quilt is done. I'm just hand sewing the binding. So guess what? We have one more seam left to do. We're going to join the top to the bottom right there. We're going to try to line up all of these seams, okay? We're going to try to line up our raw edges. We're going to try to line up the seams right here, that middle seam, and this seam here. You'll see me at the sewing machine. I might take a second and make sure that that's lined up. You could just throw some pins in there, right? Make sure if you have to leave before we're done that you come back and catch the replay, because I think you're going to love tomorrow's quilt block. I'm going to show you all the pieces that you'll need for tomorrow's quilt block here in just a second. Let me give this a press. This is pretty, y'all. Here's our finished block. The Mosaic Star. How pretty is that, right? Oh, I love it so much. Yes, Wanda, that's me. I did the screen printing video. We made that quilt, or I screen printed all of the blocks with you in that video. Aw, Mimsy, you're buffering. I'm sorry. You'll have to catch us on the replay because hopefully it won't buffer when you're watching the replay. Thank you so much, Diane57, for moderating for me today. I appreciate you so much. Yes, isn't that gorgeous? I really like this quilt block. I've made 2 of them, so one will go up on the wall and one will go in my stack that I've made samples for as we've done each one of the 12 videos so far. I made both blocks with the same color this time. So that's where we are. I cannot wait to put this up on the design wall. Look, we're starting to fill in that gray design wall. Video number 12, y'all. Tomorrow will be our 13th block. I think this one's pretty. So let me show you, in case you missed the very beginning of this video, I'm going to show you what this block looks like as a quilt if you make the same block and repeat it over and over again. That's pretty, right? Yes. You could even change up the colors and do it scrappy or an organized scrappy. Do each one of your blocks a set different color. That would be gorgeous, right? The other 3 questions, Mimsy. So if we hosted karaoke night tonight, what would be the song that you sang at karaoke? Would you rather ride a bike, ride a horse, or ride in a car if you needed to run an errand? Would you rather ride a bike, a horse, or ride in a car? And then the third question was, what is your biggest fear? The last question for today was, do you like surprises or are you not a fan of surprises? I think the surprises, it depends on my mood for the day. Like I got 2 boxes today. Actually, they were not a surprise. I knew they were coming. But I was surprised they got here so quick. I get to open a book and some fabrics today. I'm excited about that, but that was not a real surprise. I was just surprised that it came so fast. I'm not a big one on surprise parties though. Like if y'all organized a surprise party and then I walked in thinking I was here to do one thing and everyone jumped out at me, that would make me so nervous. So I think it depends on the surprise for me. Yes, a lot of movement in that block, right? Yes, so let me show you what we're doing tomorrow. And I'm going to leave these measurements up on the screen for a minute. Hold on, that was supposed to be a surprise. Let me take that off for a second. The maple leaf block. This is also going to be a 12-inch block. I'm going to be using 2 colors in my maple leaf block, but you could do this random colors as well. Imagine how pretty it would be with fall colors. That would be gorgeous, right? So I've put up on this screen the measurements for tomorrow's block. Again, you'll note next to the 2 7-by-7-inch blocks, you can make those bigger. We're going to be making the half square triangles from those blocks. And if you're someone who likes to trim and square up your half square triangles, go ahead and make the 7-by-7, 8-by-8, and then you can square up. You'll have plenty to square up your half square triangles. So yes, this will be block number 13, the maple leaf block. It's been so great having y'all spend some time with me today. And I think the Mosaic Star block looks really complicated, but the way that we broke it down, I think really simplifies the process. And then once you do it a couple of times, it'll be like second nature to you. Yes, right, Mimsy? It's very similar to the bear claw, except we're adding a little stem for the maple leaf, right? Heidi, I'm sorry. I don't know how to do the subtitles during a live video. But yeah, the subtitles should come up once the replay is posted. Judy, you've made the maple leaf block before. Yes, that's a really popular, very traditional quilt block. Very popular. I made a quilt using this block, repeated several times in all different sizes. And I have a quilt made just like that. Oh, yeah. Linda, you're absolutely right. I do have a typo. Let me go ahead and fix that. Thank you. I've been doing typos all over the place. Let's see. That's not supposed to be 45 inches. That would be humongous. That would be humongous. Thank you for catching that so I could change it real quick. Thank you so much. Hazel, I'm so glad. Thank you for your little donation that you sent to me. You do not, I hope you know that you do not have to do that. I just really like spending the time with you. And that's really what these videos are about, right? Maybe we'll learn a new block. Maybe we'll learn something new like partial seams or flying geese units. Most of all, we get to hang out and spend time with one another. Today was the first time I drove my car in almost, as of Monday, it will be 4 weeks. That's a long time. Yes, I just want us to be able to hang out and spend time with one another. It's great that we're sewing while we do that. It's great that some of you are learning something new. Some of you have probably already made the maple leaf block. Even if you have, I hope that you just hang out with us tomorrow. Y'all are so welcome. Y'all are so welcome. I can think of nothing else I'd rather be doing right this second. I'm so glad it's helpful for you too. You know, I get asked a lot during these videos, what is the quilt going to look like, or how big will the quilt be when we're done? And I don't even know that, you know, I will put a quilt together with these blocks, but I didn't start off with that intention. I think just learning the different blocks, doing the tutorials for each one of them, y'all can take any of these blocks and make complete quilts out of the individual blocks. Or take two of your favorites, like let's say the churn dasher or the churn dash block is a favorite and the maple leaf is a favorite. You could put those together and make a quilt with just those two blocks. Here's what the quilt would look like if you repeat the same block. On my example, I had them all going facing to the left on one row and then flipped them over and had them all going in the opposite direction. Just adds a little bit of movement to it, but yes, it's all the same block repeated as a quilt. Laura, you got caught up on the blocks last night. Awesome. Suzanne, you had never done a quilt block, and so, yes, I'm so glad you're following along. Right, Dorothy? The Mosaic Star looks a little intimidating. It does. But if you break it down and you make little units It really makes it a lot more easy. And then you just join the units and build up as you go along. And next thing you know, you have a quilt block. Is there a trick to cut precisely? I think your cutting skills get better as the more you do it, the better you get. I think the trick is to really slow down. I think the trick would be to make sure that you're cutting the right measurement. Make sure your ruler's lined up on the line. They always say count twice and cut once, right? And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Yes, Jerry, you're right. Some people do starch their fabric to get a more precise cut. That is so true. Jeannie, yes, you'll have to catch us on the replay. We did the Mosaic Star. I'll just show you real quick. This is the block we did together today. We made flying geese units. This is a flying geese. That's a flying geese. We put two together to make 4 individual blocks and then put it together as a 4 patch. If your ruler is sliding, I have this stuff. I got it from the Dollar Tree, y'all. Let me cut off a piece of it because I use it. I have a big piece of this underneath of my cutting mat so it doesn't slide. I have a piece underneath my tripod so it doesn't slide around, but it's shelf liner. It's got all these little holes in it, and it's black, but it's not, it's like skid resistant. This came from the Dollar Tree. You can cut a small piece of this and put it on the bottom side of your ruler, and that helps to keep your ruler from sliding. And it's very thin. You get a whole roll of it for $1, and you can cut it into small little pieces and put some on each one of your rulers. There's a tip for you today. Yes. I have a little bit of this on almost each one of my rulers, and it just stops from your ruler. Now, of course, I say that, but I'm going to show you a ruler that doesn't have it. This is not a ruler that I use on a constant basis. I've just pulled it out so that it's smaller in the videos. But if you tape, double-sided tape, a little small piece here and there, it really stops the ruler from sliding and shifting as you're cutting, okay? You'd want to put it, you can just use small little pieces. And a couple or all 4 corners just like that. And just that right there would help stop your ruler from sliding as much. It might still slide, but there's going to be a little bit of a resistance there. You could glue it or do a double-sided tape would work too. That's what I do. They have products that you can buy that you could put on the bottom. It's like a little gummy, clear little gummy dots. Those work too. I've seen those. But I have a big roll of this from the Dollar Tree, and I cut little small pieces from it. I have a great big piece underneath of this cutting mat so that it doesn't slide on my wooden work table. And look, this mat does not slide anywhere. Yes, a lot of people use weights too. And then you're working out too while you're cutting fabric. You're working all your little muscles at the same time. Hello. Yes, I love to go to Deb's channel. If y'all have a minute, she goes live on Sundays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's probably not all the days, but Deb at Our Time to Quilt has a wonderful YouTube channel, and she does art quilts. She pieces together traditional quilts too, but She really loves to do art quilts, and she does quilt alongs, and she's very easy to listen to, and yes, I like to watch her if I'm not doing anything on Sunday afternoons. I like to watch her show on Sundays, and then on Thursdays, I believe it's Thursday, she does her art quilts, and I like to watch that too. So yes, if y'all have a minute, check out our Time to Quilt with Deb. She's here on YouTube. She likes to use the Inktense pencils a lot, and I'm a huge fan of those. So I like to see all the things that she does with her Inktense pencils. Ellen says, what is the best ruler for this 12-inch Mosaic Star? I'm going to tell you, I have, pardon me, let me take a sip of water first. In my business, I make t-shirt quilts on commission, right? So I'm making a lot of t-shirt quilts with different size blocks. So I have a lot of rulers because that really makes my life much faster. And if you're doing it for profit, you know that time is money, right? So I have a 16 by 16, 15 by 15, 12 by 12, 10 by 10, 8 by 8, 6 by 6. I have a bunch of different rulers, but I only ever use those if I'm cutting out blocks for t-shirt quilts, right? My main go-to ruler for everything is this, and this ruler is old, y'all. I have to draw the lines back on. I inherited this ruler from my great aunt, who was a lifetime avid quilter. And when she passed, I got this ruler along with some fabric and some books. And I use this ruler every single day. It is old. OLFA. Made in the USA. It's got a little edge. It's got a little lip that sits right on the edge of your cutting mat that helps you keep nice and straight. This is my main ruler for everything. Just a straight edge ruler. But we're all different, right? That's the main ruler I use every single day. Laura, I'm not sure. Hopefully it'll be about the same time as today. In the noonish hour, noon to 2. Look for me sometime between there. If everything goes according to plan, I like to try to hit that time frame. All right, does anybody have any questions? If you do, put them in all caps. We're going to stay 3 or 4 more minutes before we end today's video. If you have questions, put them in all caps and type them again just in case I missed it. If you asked earlier, that'll help me out tremendously. And yes, I'll pull back up on the screen the maple leaf. You can jot that down as we close for today. There we go. Tomorrow's block is going to be super duper simple, y'all. Yes, tomorrow's block will be really simple. By the end of all this, y'all are going to be master pros at doing some half square triangles, right? Tomorrow, we're making 4 of them. Again. A lot of your traditional quilt blocks consist of half square triangles, just situated in different ways, right? You're so welcome, Janet. You're so welcome. Yes, I'll see you tomorrow, Sandra. Hazel, thank you again so much. I look forward to spending time with you tomorrow. Diane says, I hear that Quilter's Choice has a new ruler and it doesn't move. I will have to go check that out. I'm going to be hard pressed to give up this ruler. I've worn out the lines on it. I have to draw them in with a Sharpie. You can see some of the numbers are missing. I have to draw them in with a Sharpie. This is one of my most loved possessions in this whole studio. Well, yeah, I'm so glad you're here and that you caught me live. We're going to be doing this until we're not ordered to stay at home, right? I don't know how long that'll be for the most of us. It'll be different for all of us. Here in Virginia, we are ordered to stay home until June the 10th. Now I'm really hoping that they come back halfway, at least halfway through that, and say, okay, we overestimated the amount of time and y'all are free to mingle, right? We went to Food Lion today, and it's the first time I've been to Food Lion. Harlan and my dad, they've been to the store a couple times for things that we need, but it was the first time I'd been to Food Lion in several weeks. They have big plastic acrylic pieces in front of the cashier now. They have marks on the floor that you're supposed to stand on so that you're staying a distance away from everybody. The toilet paper is still gone. The paper towels are still gone. Other stuff is starting to come back and be filled up on the shelves, but it's so weird. Mimsy, I'm gonna start having a couple favorite blocks because it's gonna be hard to start picking a favorite. What was it called? Hold on, I'm gonna grab that. So my two favorite ones, and I forget the name of that one. I forget the name of it, but you can look for the thumbnail. This is probably my most favorite so far. We just did this one day before yesterday. And then the churn dash block. I think those are my two most favorite. I don't think we've done a block yet that I really don't care for, but these are my two most favorite. Although I do like this one too. That's pretty. That's a pretty one. That would make a stunning quilt. Bernadette. Let's see, just a thought. What if you made the blocks, not mug rugs, auction them off and use the money for charity, helping those caught in the virus trauma? You might be onto something there. That is something to consider. Ellen, I'm so glad you enjoyed this lesson. All right, y'all. I know I have missed a lot of answers to the questions for today. I've missed a lot of conversation. Angel, tomorrow we should be here in the same time between 12 and 2, hopefully, if everything goes right. I usually go on my Facebook page first, live, and then come over here. I've enjoyed spending this day with you. Wanda says, what is the first thing everyone's doing when the quarantine is over? She's running to the fabric store. I miss going to the fabric store, Wanda. I do. I miss just going out and about. I miss going out to eat at a restaurant and actually eating in the restaurant. It's funny what they say. Okay, as we close for today. It's funny they say you always want what you can't have, right? Since they have said that we have to stay at home, I have wanted fajitas. Fajitas with queso and guacamole and some white sauce and some homemade salsa. That's going to be one of the first things that I do once they tell us that we can go out and we can eat out again. I'm getting some fajitas and guacamole and melty white cheese. That's what I'm doing. Then I'll go buy some fabric. Oh, Beverly says she's going to visit family and friends. Yes. All right, y'all. I hope that you've had a lot of fun today. I hope that this has been a great distraction and that it has filled up part of your Saturday with some friendly faces and conversation. I hope that maybe some of you have learned something new today, right, with the flying geese. I hope that you give this block a try. Tomorrow is the maple leaf block. I cannot wait to see you, and I cannot wait to read all the conversation from today's live this evening. Yes, and I hope that the rest of your day goes wonderful and that you have an amazing afternoon and evening. I'll see y'all tomorrow, okay? Bye. Ooh, chimichangas. Yes, chimichangas too. Oh my goodness. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow.